And we're live. Welcome to another episode of the Live Clean and Fight Dirty Show, once a week at 5 o'clock Pacific Standard Time with your host, John Hackleman, talking about martial arts.
And we're live. Welcome to another episode of the Live Clean and Fight Dirty Show, once a week.
Sorry, there you go. Hopefully, okay, there we go. Sorry, sound issue. I said it earlier. Thank you to all the people who just joined the Pit Kajikembo Facebook page. You can ask questions live. Feel free. Any question you want for you Kajikembo guys, or anyone, any martial artist, or even just perusing through the internet, you can ask your questions to a UFC coach here, live, right now, 5 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. As you saw in the title, what's the best martial art in the world? Many people associate Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu as MMA, but is it really? And what's the best martial art in the world? Who better to ask than the Pitmaster? So let's get this out of the way. Is Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu MMA?
A lot of people think so, and this is, first of all, I love Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Some of my best friends are Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belts, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu coaches, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu world champions. I know some of the top Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu guys in the world. And obviously, it's a big part of our curriculum and our training methodology because of all the MMA that we do. But when I hear like Joe Rogan talking about Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu or Jocko, I love both those guys, but I think they're mixing up Jiu-Jitsu with MMA or Vale Tudo, which they used to call it. Because they talk about it like it's a street fighting art. And while there are a lot of techniques that are, they're good for the street. They're efficient, they're effective, they'll work in the street. There's a lot of things that don't, and it's a sport. So saying that it's the best art for the street, you have to take into consideration if they're just talking about jiu-jitsu, strict Brazilian jiu-jitsu, it is a sport. Their takedowns aren't very good. A lot of times a lot of their classes, they start on their knees or in different positions. They don't do the takedowns like wrestling. They're taking a lot of wrestling takedowns, and they're including them in their system. And that's great, but is it really, still Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu if they're taking freestyle takedowns and even judo takedowns? I don't know. It's like, would you consider it boxing if they did sprawls and takedown defense in boxing? That's not the same sport. I mean, it's different. It's more effective for the street, but it's not. If you go to a boxing gym, you're not going to learn takedown defense. You're not going to learn how to escape from the mount position. You're going to learn how to punch very effectively, but you're just going to learn how to punch. So to say it's the greatest sport for activity for street, it's kind of ridiculous, because if you're fighting a really good striker, right, against a jiu-jitsu guy, strict jiu-jitsu, I don't think he'll be able to get him down, because jiu-jitsu, they practice against other grapplers to try to submit them or beat them on points. It's a sport. They don't work on any takedown defense, or they don't work on any striking defense. So they're going to get clobbered, right? Let's not forget what Royce Gracie did in the UFC. That was Vale Tudo. So he mixed his jiu-jitsu with striking and striking defense and a lot more takedowns. So, and they called it jiu-jitsu, okay? But Maurice Smith called his kickboxing, and he worked on sprawls. So when you start mixing them like that, I think you're kind of losing, you're losing its I don't know, it's strict. It's strict. I don't know what the word is, but it's losing its it's authenticity. So, and I love jujitsu. I think it's a great sport. Boxing is a great sport, but boxing doesn't do takedowns or takedown defense. Jiu-jitsu doesn't do striking or striking defense. Now, if you want to mix it up with all the different systems, then okay, you could have a jiu-jitsu background or foundation. But jiu-jitsu against a boxer, if the jiu-jitsu guy gets him down, they don't have very good takedown defense. I mean, they don't have very good takedowns in jiu-jitsu, but the striker might land the punch and knock him out. If he gets a hold of him and gets him down, he'll win. But it's up in the air who's going to do it. Now you bring in wrestling. Now if a jiu-jitsu guy fights a wrestler, he's never going to get him down. He might catch him in a guillotine when the wrestler comes in, but other than that, he's not gonna be able to ever take down the wrestler. Wrestlers' takedowns are a lot better than jiu-jitsu, unless the jiu-jitsu guy has been cross-training with wrestling. Now he's not really a pure jiu-jitsu guy anymore, right? So it depends on how you see it, because the jiu-jitsu guy now and the wrestler, who's going to win? The wrestler, if he gets him down, he'll probably get submitted. But if the jiu-jitsu guy will never get the wrestler down, so it'll just kind of be a stalemate. Now, what if a striker fights a wrestler? Now, the striker, wrestlers have no, striking defense. So he'll run into a uppercut or a knee or some kind of punch or kick, because he doesn't defend against strikes. So he'll either get knocked out or he'll get the takedown first, and then he'll just lay on him on the ground because they don't have any submissions. Neither one of them has submissions. So neither one of them will really be able to fight on the ground. So it's kind of, now you need the jiu-jitsu guy. Right? So it's kind of that, for the schoolyard, yeah, great, have a jiu-jitsu guy, but now if he fights a striker, right? If you fight a jiu-jitsu guy, they say it's like you're like in water and you don't know how to swim, and the jiu-jitsu guy is a shark. Okay. Well, if you're standing up, the striker is a sniper and you don't have any bullets. So I mean, it depends on who gets lucky first. Now I'm not even adding in conditioning, because let's just say they all have equal conditioning. Let's just say that, because that's another option. That's another way you're going to win or lose, conditioning, right? Because now the guy without conditioning, maybe he's the jiu-jitsu guy, he finally gets the striker down, but hasn't been working on his conditioning, and because that's not really part of jiu-jitsu. Now he's exhausted, right? So let's leave out conditioning, because that adds a lot to it. But here's what I'm saying. Jiu-jitsu guy against a striker, whoever wins that one, it's going to be 50-50. Unless the jiu-jitsu guy learns striking defense, now he's not just a jiu-jitsu guy anymore. Or the striker learns how to get up off the mount. Now he's not just a striker anymore. So here's the best martial art in the world. This is without a doubt. Okay? You have equal amounts of jiu-jitsu and striking. And that striking is Muay Thai. Okay? That would be the striking. Okay? Now you have to have equal parts of them, and then you have to sprinkle in wrestling. Wrestling decides, is the striker going to win or is the jiu-jitsu guy going to win? The wrestler decides that. So the wrestler himself can't win those, because what's he going to do when he gets the jiu-jitsu guy on the ground? Get submitted. Right? What's he going to do if he gets the striker on the ground? Lay on him. Right? So, and then if the striker, if he gets off first, he's going to knock out either one of the other two. So there has to be all three. You have to have all three, and now you add conditioning. Now you have the best martial art in the world. Okay, I consider ours, Hawaiian Kempo, is equal parts of all four: striking, jujitsu, wrestling, and physical, conditioning. Basically, strength and conditioning training is what you need, and it has to be high levels of anaerobic work, high levels of sprinting, high levels of power work, right? And you have to have high powered strength work. Now you're a killer. You practice all those and become proficient in all those. Now you're a really good fighter. But guess what? You don't have any more time. So you have to figure out a way to fucking
personal life.
you have to streamline those. You have to streamline all of those things to be an effective and efficient martial artist. Because I'm sorry, jiu-jitsu guys, but if you're using wrestling takedowns, you're not really just a jiu-jitsu guy. You're just a grappler that doesn't want to get punched in the face, and you're too scared to get punched in the face. And if you're just a striker that doesn't want to learn any takedown defense or get off of the bottom, the minimal techniques they have to learn to keep it standing, takedown defense and get up off the bottom, but they don't want to learn that because they just don't want to learn it. They're not scared to learn it. But grapplers are scared to learn the striking because nobody wants to get punched in the face. Strikers just don't want to. They're lazy and they're too egotistical to want to learn wrestling and and grappling. They don't want to do it. Nobody's scared to defend a takedown or get up off the bottom, but people are scared to get punched in the face. So I don't really like this, the mislabeling Valley Tudo with jiu-jitsu and saying it's the best martial art for the street when it's not. It's a fantastic sport, but it's not the best technique. It's not the best group of techniques for the street. Either is striking, because you might fight a guy that just barrels you, tackles you down to the ground. Now you're on the ground. He might be punching you. A street fighter will fight better than most of these arts without mixing them up. Like a street fighter could probably beat a jiu-jitsu guy, strict jiu-jitsu guy, or a strict striker. Because if you're strictly a striker, you have no takedown defense. That guy's just going to run and tackle you. Now you're on the ground. He's pounding your face. A street fighter. So you have to become proficient at all these, and you have to have a martial arts instructor that's good enough to be able to put all these together in a package, right? And package it and teach you these things without, you're a busy doctor, lawyer, teacher, some kind of business owner. You don't have all that time. Let's say 3 hours a week, So we have to be able to teach these things effectively and efficiently to become a well-rounded martial artist. So I hope that made sense. We got any questions?
Yeah, we have a few questions, a few comments, and then I'll add a something a little later. A few things I want to ask. So we're going to start with Robert's comments. Robert Essel, thank you for commenting. And if you have any comments, please bring them in. Usually at the last 10 minutes, which we're getting to right now, I address all questions. That's what we're doing. Robert Essel, the Kosen Judo guy or the catch wrestling gene? Pit method is definitely top of the line. Well, thank you, Robert. John Cox asks, not related to what topic, and I always say any question is welcome. What do I need to do if I'm a Kajikembo black belt and I'm interested in a certification in your MMA curriculum?
Okay, here's one I'm not 100% sure of. Do they have to be a member of KSDI?
As to my knowledge, no. They just have to be a Kajikembo black belt, and there's a difference between being a member of KSDI. Now, if I'm wrong and KSDI comes up to you and says that, as of right now, to my knowledge, and if I'm wrong, please, someone contact me or John. To my knowledge, it's if you're interested in John's MMA certification program that was offered to Kajukibo black belts, all you have to do is contact John. Now, as far as the background stuff between KSDI and John, that's going to be between KSDI and you.
Yeah.
That'll be done off camera. But yeah, pretty much if you're interested, you can. If you're interested in we are getting the dates together, and there will be an announcement soon as to in-house training, and there'll also be another announcement for online certification as well. So please stay tuned for that as the information comes out. The answer for you, John, is if you're interested in the program, all you have to do is contact either John or me, and I'll connect you with John, and we'll set something up for you. So if it's one
Or I'll
basic,
connect you with Angela if you get with me.
yeah, either or. You'll get a someone will.
Both are gonna be coming out soon. The first one I think I'm gonna do is gonna be on the compound in-house. It's gonna be here on the compound, and you know we'll get you guys, show you where the good hotel is around here. We're gonna have it'll be a 3-day seminar. We're gonna be doing work on every day. We're gonna be doing we'll be getting together. Then we're gonna have a ceremony the last day. It's gonna be pretty cool. I've done these before, usually with the pit certifications, but these are going to be a little different, but it's going to be the same. You're going to be working on the at the compound where Chuck and Glover and all the guys started. You're going to be working at our gym, our in-house gym, and then we're going to be working. We're probably going to do we usually do a beach workout, and we'll probably finish it with a Madonna walk. So that's what we're doing.
All right. Now, getting back to our topic, and this is no one asked you this question, but I think it's an interesting one. So one of the things that you mentioned was the idea of street fighting, and I think it's interesting that online, some people have been saying, not so much for the street fight, but here's a quote from an MMA coach, Ramsey L. Dewey, and also YouTuber. I just browsed over discussion number 2743 on how training Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu in a gi is important in case you get into a street fight with a guy who's wearing a jacket similar to a gi suit coat, for example. Solid advice to deal with all those suit-wearing ruffians you're bound to meet at church or in a board meeting at the office. Seriously, though, street fights are dumb and completely avoidable the overwhelming majority of the time. If you've been in more than a couple of these, then you're probably the one starting the trouble in the first place. Please stop getting into street fights. So, the idea being...
You know what, before you go any further, that last remark was very condescending, and he's obviously never lived in a rough neighborhood or grew up in a tough neighborhood, because I got into so many fights coming up, and I wasn't starting any fights until I was. And also the time that I've had to step in or intervene, a lot of times it's because of your job, and a lot of times it's because where you live, a lot of times where you work. There's so many times that people there's millions every year, people that get attacked, and it's not because they started them all. That, like I said, that's easy. This guy must have lived in a really nice, quiet, soft neighborhood when he was growing up, because just growing up alone, if you haven't been in a dozen fights by the time you're 18, you grew up in a pretty nice neighborhood, and you should be thankful for that. But don't criticize the people that have had to get into fights because they grew up in a tougher neighborhood.
Well, and I know him personally, and he actually had his school time scuffles, and then he did missionary work and ended up out in South America, and he actually ended up in some pretty dangerous neighborhoods. But again, his approach is always been this idea that street fighting is usually put first, and if you're very proficient at MMA, for example, that you're kind of doing overkill. Like you're not overkill, but you do MMA because you want to do MMA. it'll make you very proficient in self-defense, but the chances of you getting, like, the idea of saying that the art doesn't work if it doesn't work in the street is what he's usually going after.
Huh. Interesting. So basically, I mean, basically that's time and energy and desire. Like some people want to train that hard, and then some people don't have the time, so they're trying to fit in as much as they can. But for people that are doing MMA or defending their life in the street, defending the life of their families, if they don't train that hard for that, but they do for MMA, that means that people that are trying to win a medal or money for fighting should train harder than someone's trying to protect their life or their family's life. I mean that's great if you don't have a family. What if the guy has a family? Don't you think he should step up his training? Because it's not overkill if his family's jumped by two guys and they're trying to beat the living shit out of his family, then he better step up his game and equal or even more than an MMA fighter, or else he's just gonna get the shit kicked out of him. What's he gonna tell his wife when she's lying in the fucking hospital with a tracheostomy, a cracked skull, two broken femurs? Is he gonna tell her, sorry, we didn't really train that hard? It's just because most street fights, they don't really equal that much damage, you know, and I think most people overtrain for the street. So I wanted to keep it here. I don't want to train too hard. You should train that hard if you want to protect your family. And if you don't want to be the protector, then just train a little bit.
Yeah, and again, like I'm not sure he's not discouraging people from training. Obviously, he's an MMA coach, so like he's making a distinction between people who attack him online, saying that MMA wouldn't work in the street, because that's what they usually come out with him.
It sounded like from what you said, he thought training MMA style or as much as an MMA fighter is overtraining for the street.
He feels that if you're going to do MMA, you do MMA. If you actually have to do martial arts, but he's more or less being attacked by people online saying that that would not work in the street. So his counter argument is, how many street fights are you really getting into? I mean, yeah, but his argument would be that MMA can work in the street, but he's trying to come at those people being like, well, you're just a ruffian who's trying to start street fight.
That one, I mean, all it takes is the one street fight and you're dead.
Yeah.
Right. So, I mean, that's what you're really training for. And hopefully you never have to get in one.
Yeah.
And but if you do, and that person attacks you and you can't talk your way out of it or give them whatever verbal judo or, you know, body language, if you can't calm them down, there's some fucking crazy guys out there that just want to fucking do violence. And if you meet one of those and you're not 100% prepared, then you're done and your family's done. So I don't know. Maybe I'm misunderstanding what he's saying.
Yeah.
So, maybe we should have him on.
We should. Ramsey, if you're watching this, we'd love to have a discussion about your idea about street fighting and why it turns you off so badly whenever that comes up.
MMA, yeah. What's the difference? Why MMA to me is the best. It's the best test for your training for the street. MMA is your best test, short of fighting in the street. We don't want to test in the street anymore. Things end up all kind of crazy ways, including you dead or in prison. So it just doesn't work out like, well, I just worked on these techniques and let's go try them in the street. Hey, bro, come here, blah, blah, blah. And next thing you know, you're in fucking prison and your wife is fucking the neighbor. So shit like that is like, I don't know, it doesn't work out too well. So, but if you teach these techniques, then you watch the MMA, especially UFC, you go, oh, that shit really does work. Or, oh shit, I better not do that. So, boom. There you go.
I think you better prepare one because I know Ramsey personally. I'm going to send him a message. We'll see if we can get him on here. Robert Essel, what if your drunk uncle is at the family party and you're sick of him? MMA sets you up for sitting on him and laughing. Oh, there you go. So he's just making a comment. Like,
there you go.
Yeah, yeah, you can dodge the punch. You're not scared of getting punched, so you can take care of business. And at the same time, if you're really good at what you're doing and it's your drunk uncle, you can hold him down. I've held down a few drunk friends of family and had to be the one to hold them down and not hurt them and sober up and apologize and talk about their drinking problems the next day. So, yeah, good. I don't know if I had good times. It was not good times. What a party pooper is all I have to say.
So if you got an uncle that's known as the drunk uncle, that guy needs some fucking therapy or some kind of group or some kind of intervention.
It does. It is an intervention. After that's the next conversation you're gonna have to have with your drunk uncle. I've had to have that conversation. It's not comfortable. Well, this has been another episode of the Live Clean and Fight Dirty Show. If you're interested on online training, aside from the certification program we mentioned, you can sign up if you just want to go through the entire PIT system. At thepit.tv, there are slots available if you want to earn a black belt online. You start from the beginning and you go to the very end. There is an in-house component at the end there, but you can do most of it online, depending on where you're at. Thank you all for tuning in. Catch y'all next week.